Greetings all, this is Justin, this is Harry Nick.
How you doing, dude?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Actually, a bit surprised because I've been looking up second edition lists, as have all of we, as is testament by all the responses I've gotten on the channel. Yeah. And I was chatting to Gareth, a friend of the channel, just yesterday actually, and we were talking about some weird interactions with some certain cards, which led me to go to the new rules reference that came out a few weeks ago, and I was actually a bit surprised with some of these interactions we have here. Yeah. The reason I have not gone through the rules reference yet on the channel is because it happened 3 weeks ago, pretty much the exact same time as all that stuff was announced at Gen Con. I mean, when we talk about all the new stuff for Legion, X-Wing, Keyforge, which is now a game I'm covering on the channel, this is going to fly under the radar. I don't apologise for that. And also, I'm pretty sure that most of you also missed this. There are a few of you saying, hey, you missed this interaction, that kind of stuff. And that's all fine, but when I'm talking about this kind of stuff and looking at it, I realise not a lot of people are talking about some of the stuff in this document. So it's worth going through that for that reason, for sure.
Sounds good.
Yep, so we're just going to scroll down through this and talk about anything new which I didn't know about before. I'm sure there's also a few things that some of you didn't realise before, so if you've read the document yourself and you think I've missed something, let me know in the comments. We'll continue the conversation moving forward. But yes, this is the official rules reference, which will be in effect at the start of X-Wing 2nd Edition. Let's take a look and have a look at some of these new rules. Okay, first up we have something very spicy, and I'm very glad I have a Magic the Gathering player here, because we have the ability queue. And a lot of you are going to read this and think, what are you talking about? What is this? Why is this so relevant? But the half of you that do play Magic the Gathering are going to look at this and go, oh great, this is in X-Wing 2 now. We have the stack in X-Wing.
Nice.
Now, it's not going to come up in X-Wing as much as it does in Magic. All the abilities on cards and instants and all that kind of stuff in Magic goes onto the stack, and you have to resolve it in reverse order as to which they came into play. It doesn't work quite the same way in X-Wing. When there are simultaneous triggers, first of all, you add onto the queue the first player triggers, and then you add the last player triggers. So the first player always resolves his abilities first. Okay. However, if there are multiple abilities that trigger at the same time from the same player, that player adds it to the queue or the stack in the order they decide.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Also, there are abilities that trigger off the back of other abilities, and they always go to the last, the front of the queue, they call it. We usually call that the bottom of the stack in Magic. Okay. So this is something that is annoying to get your head around, but at the same time good for clarification. It's like the flow chart when it comes to combat.
Yeah, once people realise how it works, it'll flow nicely.
That's right. And it's not going to happen all that often. So it'll be a case of, oh, how does that work again? Hopefully when you're playing a game of X-Wing, there'll be someone nearby who's played Magic and they'll know how all this works. It's just a reality that helps keep things balanced. Actually, before we go on to anything else, let's just scroll right down to the bottom, because we actually have an example of how the queue works. All right, let's read through this. Jake Farrell, an A-Wing, has the ability, after you perform a barrel roll or boost action, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 1. That ship performs a focus action. He also has the ability, after you perform an action, you may perform a red boost action. Now, I'm not going to go through all this in detail. You can see it on the screen in front of you. But basically, that ship ability and that pilot ability both trigger off the same event. Therefore, they are added into the queue in order of that player's choice.
Yep.
So if you need to boost Jake, but you need to get your other ship out of the way, you can make them perform a barrel roll action so Jake can boost to where they were. That kind of stuff. You have the choice and the flexibility. This seems very niche and sort of dumb and overly complex, but it will happen occasionally.
It's good that they've put an example in the appendix there. That way people can have a bit more understanding than just reading this and questioning their life.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when I saw this first, I thought, I'm going to have to think of an example to show you guys. There's an example right here. More to the point, I think those repositioning things, that's going to be when it comes up the most. Trying to get ships out of the way. It happens all the time, even in regular X-Wing. Anyway, let's continue onwards. Okay, there's a section here which talks about where a ship is positioned in relation to other ships, whether you're behind and in front of. That's where you measure from the center line of the ship. If it's entirely in one sector, forward or behind, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Flanking. We've never heard this term before.
No.
If a ship A crosses the midway line of ship B, then ship A is flanking ship B. There's no card in the game that refers to flanking, but there might be. This is a possible future design that FFG have put in.
Yeah.
Possibly when we're looking at the Resistance First Order or maybe Republic CIS,
Yeah.
they're playing around with this mechanic. I don't really know how we're going to use this kind of thing. It strikes me as something that could be powerful if your ship has a turret because you can fire directly sideways. I don't know, like swarm mechanics. Maybe we'd like the CIS droids.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that jumps into my head as something that might use that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems interesting that they've put that there. It could be, I will say this, it could be an early design thing that they got rid of later on and they kept in the document because, hey, we might use it one day.
Yeah.
So it's no guarantee of anything, but it's a new term and I thought I'd bring it up. Okay, let's move on because we have something interesting here with the declare attack step. During the declare target step, the attack arc is the arc that corresponds with the chosen weapon. The attack range is determined by measuring range from the closest point of the attacker to the closest point of the defender and is in the attack arc. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because there is a little bit of confusion around the interaction with some cards that give you bonus attacks because a mobile indicator and a primary arc can be overlapping.
Yeah.
Now, can you get a bonus attack out of an arc if you didn't fire with the turret, but you fired with the primary weapon? Is it counted as having two separate arcs overlapping the same thing? This is relevant for veteran turret gunner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this weird thing. And the general consensus of people I've spoken to about this seems to be that, yes, you should be able to. You can do this on a Y-Wing, for example. That's part of the original design of a Y-Wing, being able to double tap with the primary and turret.
Yep.
This is the closest thing I could find in this document that clarifies it. In case I've missed anything, let me know in the comments. And that doesn't seem to be clarified in this document.
Oh, damn.
Which is a little bit annoying. I think it's fairly safe to assume that it's implied that you can, but clarification would have been nice for that.
Yeah.
We've got a nice little paragraph here with a bit more clarification on barrel rolls. And this is important because if you fail an action, you don't get another action. If you try to barrel roll in some direction and you don't succeed in doing that, you can't barrel roll into another ship or a rock. Therefore, you fail the action and you don't get another action. This clarifies the point that you have to announce what direction you barrel roll in, and then if you can barrel roll anyway in that direction, you do it.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I choose to barrel roll directly sideways. Oh, I can't barrel roll directly sideways. Because remember, you have to line up the notches with the template.
Yeah.
That's the main thing here. So a nice little clarification there, just worth noting when you're looking at how you succeed and fail actions. Okay, bonus attacks. First of all, it has been clarified and we've spoken about this. The developers have talked about this. You only get one bonus attack per turn. Fair enough. I think that could have gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
I don't think there are too many ways to get multiple bonus attacks. Maybe a TIE SF with a gunner. Doesn't matter. It can't be done. That's probably for the best. If both players have a bonus attack that triggers after an attack, the defending player resolves their attack first. That's good if Quick Draw in the First Order still has her ability. She will activate her ability first, and if you have a bonus attack on your ship that attacked her, then you do it after that bonus attack. Yep. That's the only thing I can think of that's going to occur in that instance, but the good thing is now bonus attacks happen during the aftermath step, which is after the entire attack.
Okay.
This is important because Quick Draw said whenever I lose a shield, or Dengar was whenever I get attacked in arc. There are different circumstances for bonus attacks. Now it's like, nope, there is a set point where you do bonus attacks.
Yeah.
And that just removes any confusion, which is a really good idea.
And it's also a good way for people to sort of sneak around, like you're attacking Quick Draw if you can then try and get out of her arc afterwards. Before the aftermath step.
Yes. Well, we don't have the information on Quick Draw yet, so maybe it will only work during combat. Like, I could see, for example, Quick Draw saying, if you suffer damage from an attack and you lose a shield, not just when you lose a shield full stop. That would seem to be in keeping with what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
This is speculation. We haven't seen Quick Draw yet, but it is worth keeping an eye on that. Okay, cloaking and decloaking. Now, this probably doesn't come as a surprise to a lot of you, but we do have stipulated in the rules how to decloak medium and large base ships. None of those exist right now, but we know one is probably coming in the Scimitar Fighter.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really cool. Obviously, the design is there in place, ready for it to come out. That's going to be awesome. We know it's a large base ship. We have here the graphics, which I'll put here on the screen in front of you guys. Based on the size comparison to other graphic images FFG have made, this is a large base ship. That's going to be really interesting. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Only the ones forward template.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything more, that'd be
crazy. Yeah, the regular decloak with a large base ship. Whew. It is also worth noting that we have the ability to take cloaking device on medium ships in the Scum faction now.
Wouldn't the U-Wing have...
Oh, the U-Wing, yes. Yeah. Yes, of course. Saul's Renegade U-Wings have illicit slots. So, yes, they would use that as well. I can't think of a good reason to take a cloaking device on a U-Wing, but just in case you were thinking of it, there we go. There's clarifications. Okay, we have a few clarifications on devices, and just one of these sentences caught my eye. Most devices, as in bombs and mines, are placed during the system phase. That's a very curious statement to me. We don't really have a clarification yet whether rigged cargo chute is a device.
Okay.
It's the only thing you can drop during an action right now. But I don't know whether that's considered a device yet. I don't think we've seen clarification of that. And also, more to the point, if it's not considered a device, what devices will not be during the system phase? Or is FFG just covering their tracks and saying, hey, we might do some kind of a thing that might drop some stage.
Yeah.
Like something that replaces an attack, like a bomb that you throw out that explodes.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Just this does seem to leave the door open for that kind of stuff. Yeah. Also, there's the cargo drop from the Sea Rock Cruiser. That was something you put on the battlefield. It was one of the weird cargo cards. Now, the Sea Rock Cruiser and the rest of the epic stuff is not in second edition yet.
Yeah.
But this might be in reference to that. However, having said that, once Epic is added to second edition, there'll be another document for that. So there's no real need to clarify that kind of stuff in this. Now. Justin's probably looking at this thinking, what are you talking about, Nick? And this came up due to a conversation I was having with Gareth, friend of the channel, yesterday.
Okay.
Fail. If a red action fails, that ship does not gain a stress token. And I think this is a huge mistake. There is tangible upside from failing an action when you have the card Composure attached to your ship.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you use a linked action that you fail, you not only don't get a stress token, but you get a focus token, meaning you just net an extra token off of Composure. And I really don't think that's what FFG were trying to do with Composure.
I agree with that, but how often would that happen?
Very often if you use a certain combination.
Okay.
Corran Horn, who cannot acquire target locks at range 1.
Yeah.
So Corran Horn can use his red target lock to get a focus action at range 1. And it doesn't net him a stress token. It just seems like a lot of upside for a card that was really just designed to help newbies. Yeah. Composure is a card that is like, it's just a few points here. If you fail an action, have a focus token. It's not a card that like Tournament Grinders are going to use. Unless it has a broken combination like the one I'm talking about. I think just netting yourself a focus token with no tangible downside at range 1 of an enemy ship, that is Guri's ability. Yeah. That is an existing pilot ability that is just tacked on with this combination. I think this is absolutely a mistake. I think failed red actions should absolutely give a ship a stress token.
That makes sense, though. Like, you tried to do it, but you still... you stressed yourself out, but you can't do it.
That's right. In the target lock section, when you're measuring for a target lock, you can look at the whole thing. You don't have to declare what you're trying to target lock, but you can simply fail. You don't have to specifically target lock something that you can target lock. So that doesn't fix the Corran Horn issue either, because Corran Horn can target lock to infinity, but he can just say, "Oh, I don't want to target lock that. I'll just go focus instead."
Yeah.
It's too open to abuse. I just think this is a mistake. Probably something that wasn't caught when they were game testing that kind of stuff. Look, it happens, guys. Don't be too hard on FFG for this kind of stuff. They will fix it. But yeah, just something that I do believe is an error. And to be fair, this information's been out for a few weeks now, and I don't think anyone else has caught this yet. So this happens.
Yeah.
You can play test all you want, but the second you put out information to the general public, suddenly you have millions of eyes looking at this stuff, and you basically have an infinitesimal amount of playtesting done for you.
Yeah.
You can never catch everything. So yeah, just be aware of that, guys. I think that's going to change real soon. Either you always stress off a red action even if you fail, or composure only works on white actions. Okay, a bit of terminology that's changed. Limited and unique are no longer a different thing. Unique in first edition used to be the little bullet point next to pilots and upgrades. In fact, that's a common thing used amongst a lot of card games. And limited was a term to an upgrade that you can only have one of on every ship. Now, you can only have one of each upgrade on every ship. You don't have the ability to have multiples of the same thing anymore. Which is fair because it means like things with like torpedoes and missiles and that kind of stuff and bombs, you can only ever have the amount on the card that's given you. The amount of charges you get on a missile is the amount you'll always be able to fire with that ship. Which gives the design a lot more control, make sure there's less broken combinations, that kind of stuff. Now the term limited refers to what unique used to be. There's also another interesting little tidbit here.
Likewise, if 2 bullets appear in front of a card's name, it can be included up to twice in a squad.
That's another area of design we haven't seen yet.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool.
My mind also immediately goes to the CIS. What if we have like groups of droids that have to fly together in combination, like you have certain levels of AI that you can only field so many of?
Oh, yeah.
What if you have groups of ships that must fly together? There's a lot of room here to play around with. That seems really, really cool. Now, again, it might just be FFG going, oh, this is a cool thing that we might use one day, but we might not. But I'm going to guess, in general, if it's put in this document, they're at least thinking about it, or they have already designed it. So watch out for that kind of stuff. Okay, and another really cool point on linked actions. A linked action can be performed after performing the action it is attached to, even if the action was granted by a card effect or game effect. If there's any game effect that says, do a boost action, you can then link it. It doesn't have to specifically refer to the one on your action bar.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's weird. There was a bit of confusion because one of the TIE Reaper pilots says you can do a coordinate action. It doesn't specifically say red coordinate, despite the red coordinate on the bar being red.
Yeah.
My assertion in that instance is it's white. However, we now know that everything is either white or red. There is no just action. A white action encapsulates anything that doesn't stress your ship.
Yep.
So, there's probably a bit more clarification we could have on this kind of stuff, but it is worth noting. Linked actions are very versatile for that reason. Could be very interesting. This is just all the clarification we had on target locks that I mentioned before. You can measure anything on the board. So you get your range ruler out, you go, okay, I take a target lock. Have a look around. What do I want to target lock? You don't have to say what you want to try and target lock before you do it.
Okay.
And you can just choose nothing. When acquiring a lock, it fails if no object is chosen. So that's interesting. I would have thought that you must choose something if you can. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, this one. The idea that you can choose to fail a target lock. I mean, there's no tangible downside to taking target locks. The only reason you want to do it is to get your composure token, as we were talking about before. But having said that, you still get all the information. This is a way to get free information. Well, not free because you're failing an action. But you can measure, then take a focus token, which is a bit of upside to composure. I don't think that's a bad thing. No. I don't think that's abusing any kind of mechanic or any that kind of stuff. Again, friendly for newbies. I don't think getting that free information is really such a big deal. But it is worth noting, you can just choose nothing. All right, we have some clarification here on the term obstructed. An attack is obstructed if the attacker measures range through an object. If a ship or device obstructs an attack, there is no inherent effect. If an obstacle obstructs an attack, there is an additional effect. The reason I want to bring this up is because of the crew card for Scum Kira. She says ignore obstacles you are locking. And the problem with this is, does that mean that you're still obstructed by those obstacles, but you just don't get the negative effects? You see the problem here. This is the whole Kira Han thing, which, yeah, I would really like if FFG updated this document and specifically showed us how Kira works.
Yeah.
Because this is sort of the subject of hot debate recently. I think if you are locking a rock with Han, you can still shoot through it and get the bonus of Kira. I think the whole thing with Kira is designed so you can perform attacks while on a rock. It's not clear. It's unclear.
Yeah.
And look, it would make sense in that pack for certain things to work badly together. We know, like, Han Gunner and Lando Pilot work terribly together. Maybe like Han and Kira are meant to do the same thing.
But that doesn't make sense due to the story. Like, they're meant to be working.
Yeah, like Lando and Han I can understand.
Yeah.
But Kira and Han, although there's a subplot of, subterfuge and all that kind of stuff, spoiler alert. But
even then, she wasn't real. Like, she still goes back to them at the end, so it's not real.
I don't know. Go watch Solo if you haven't, guys. Great movie. But as to how this works, not a clue. Let's move on. Okay, clarification on titles. Titles are now specific ships. In lore, they are unique. They are a named ship. It's no longer Special Forces training or Alliance overhaul or just things that you put on ships as an added bonus. Those are now all ship abilities or configurations.
Okay.
Yes. So
makes sense.
They've cleaned this up. That always annoyed me in first edition. Yeah. Like Special Ops trainings. Why is that a title for a ship? Not. Yeah. This is meant to be the Millennium Falcon or the Red 5 if they ever want to do that, for example. Just a nice clarification. Good to have in the rules reference here. And a strong design moving forward. There's one last thing I want to talk about in this document before we finish up, and that is the errata we have here. Now, there's a few more things things I want to talk about here, but there are a couple of minor tweaks in power level. So Nora Wexley always adds an evade result when there's a nearby enemy ship. You don't have the choice not to.
Oh, okay.
I think that's probably a good thing. There are arguably reasons why you might want to take 1 point of damage. Maybe you don't want to trigger things that miss, for example. There's the Bosk Gunner card on the Scum faction. If you miss an attack, you get to perform a bonus one. You can't manipulate the dice to that extent to just allow you to take 1 damage. I don't think you've played against Brobots that much, Justin, but they get to refire because of IG-88B's ability if they miss. So if you could force just 1 damage to go through, it was often better than letting them take another shot.
Oh, okay.
So they roll 3 hits. You roll, for example, blank, focus, evade, and you have a evade token and a focus token. You just spend 1 of the tokens. You don't spend both because it's a better result than letting them fire again. Yeah. Little things like that, and Nora Wexley can't manipulate the dice to that extent. Also, Slave 1, you don't have this stress clause anymore. You just get to change the dial, which is a good thing, I think. And what we're seeing from the cards that were revealed in various unboxings, we have some that say stressed and some that don't. And FFG just decided to take that out, which is fair enough. I don't think it's an insanely powerful ability. I still think it would have been good, even if it did stress, but, the title's not that expensive. I think it's fair enough that the power level feels right if you don't stress, so that's fair enough. Apart from that, all of these are just sort of wording clarifications, nothing too crazy. Just an interesting side note as well, before we finish up this video, we also have the changes from everything that came out in Wave 14. They got rid of the little crest icons and all the things, and a few wording cleanups. No major design changes or anything. But we were just having a chat just now about them taking out the crests, and my whole theory moving forward is they probably don't want the crest symbols. When we're going to have the new factions and the Republic and the CIS, they're going to be so similar in appearance.
Oh, it's going to hurt.
Which seems to me to indicate that 2nd edition, or rather the Republic CIS and all the extra factions, were not focus of the design back when Wave 14 was designed, which gives us also an indication of when Disney told FFG they were going to remake Clone Wars, and therefore they should make a Clone Wars faction. So you can make a little timeline there of when everything kind of happened. If you look at the design changes and stuff in FFG, because we know that Disney do talk to them about when they make these shows, and they tell them, hey, you should make a thing on this because helps sales, helps your sales, helps our sales, that kind of stuff, which is all fair enough. There was a chat about how in first edition, when they were told about the Fang Fighter, they were not shown the episode, they were shown concept shots. They didn't know that it rotated. That's why the model never rotated, because FFG just didn't know. It's little tidbits like that. A lot of fun, cool information, and that's basically it. If I missed anything in the comment section, let me know. Thanks for joining me, Justin. In the meantime, like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit, and I'll catch you guys later on.
Bye.